Hey, here comes some more questions, but it's not what you think. As much as we like answering questions around here, we're going to go into some unknown territory. Kind of, sort of, maybe. You'll understand more in a minute, so away we go. We're going to do something a little bit different today. We've answered Braxton Hunter's questions for atheists a couple of times, revealed them to be completely laughable at best, but he also did a video asking 7 questions for Christian YouTubers. Now, I'm not one, but I can play make-believe just like he does. So, what does he want to know, and can I actually see if I can come up with some rational answers? I don't know. Let's find out.
Welcome to Trinity Radio. I'm Braxton Hunter, and I've got 7 questions for Christian YouTubers that I hope you will answer.
Well, I'm sure going to try. Now, keep in mind, I am not going to try to answer these questions from the perspective of a Christian, at least not necessarily, because I don't think being a Christian means that you get to take all leave of your senses. That's why whenever I hear atheists say, well, it makes sense from a Christian perspective or whatever, I just laugh. Your perspective doesn't mean anything. Whether or not your position is rational or defensible does. Whether or not it makes any sense in the real world, that's what matters. The problem is, and this goes for all religions, that their perspectives are often so absurdly skewed, thrown completely out of kilter by their emotional beliefs, that they don't make any sense at all in any context whatsoever. It's about as stupid as saying, well, it makes sense to think I'm actually from Alpha Centauri from the perspective of an alien. Yeah, but you're not an alien, at least not demonstrably, any more than a furry can say, well, I'm a wombat from the perspective of a wombat. But you're not a wombat. How you feel doesn't matter. And I have absolutely no clue how this is going to go down. Haven't seen the video yet, so let's go take a look.
At Trinity Radio, I run a Christian apologetics channel. But whatever the emphasis of your Christian channel is, I hope you'll answer these 7 questions.
Yeah, but your channel is stupid, Braxton. It is not remotely interested in factual reality. It's just pushing a religious narrative that appeals to you because, well, that's just all you care about. That's all any of these channels care about. I really like the idea of a God, therefore a God exists. Really? How do you know that? Because I really want it to be true. I mean, that's the standard level of effort that any of these channels put in, which is why every time he does a bunch of questions for atheists, everybody dogpiles on him for his absurd stupidity. But I'm trying to have an open mind here, so by all means, get to it, Braxton.
If you answer these 7 questions and the answers are appropriate, I'll link your video in the description or in a pinned comment.
And who gets to decide if they're appropriate? Well, you do, but based on what? Well, your feelings. That's the problem. There's nothing objective that these people can point to when they are evaluating arguments. But I like it, or I don't like it. That doesn't matter. Truth isn't based on your say-so, which is why you need evidence, and they don't have any. But this is a short video, and I hope he's going to get to the actual question soon, so I guess we'll have to see.
After several days, I'll throw up some channels that I think are really helpful, regardless of who responds to the video. But what I'm telling you is, if you're the first one to make a response video to this and answer these questions, I'll put your link in the video and you'll be the first one in the list. I'm doing this because I think that the answers to these questions will help Christians and unbelievers hear your heart on issues that maybe you don't talk about in every single video.
And there he's doing some weird close-up crap, because that's not creepy at all, is it? But here's the thing. We don't care about your heart. We care about your facts. We care about how you reach these conclusions rationally. We care what evidence you can present in support of these ideas. It's exactly why the religious don't get anywhere. They're looking for fifis, not facts. They're presenting emotions, not evidence. They are only concerned about what makes them feel warm and fuzzy inside, not with what is actually demonstrably true in the real world that we all share. They're speaking a completely different language from rational people, and that's their problem, not ours.
I also want to expose more people to good Christian YouTubers. So without further ado, here are 7 questions for Christian YouTubers in 2022. Number 1, what do you mean when you say you are a Christian?
Well, putting on my Christian hat for the moment, I would have said that because I believe in and follow Jesus on faith and have accepted the offered salvation as a gift from God, that's why I'm a Christian. Of course, there are lots of different answers here. Remember, 42,000 distinct sects. And even within the same denominations, lots of people have different views on what it takes to be a Christian. This is really where we have to go back to what I asked before. How does one objectively evaluate any given answer to this question? Because you can't. Braxton can only go by what he personally believes, but that's no better or worse, demonstrably, than what anybody else who considers themselves to be a Christian believes. It's all yanked straight out of their collective asses. So the question really becomes, are you a Christian because you agree with Braxton? Because after all, that's the criteria he's going to use. Or are you a Christian because you remain true to whatever religious tradition you happen to follow? How do we come up with a single, universally accepted definition? That's what I'd really like to know.
Number 2, what is the purpose of your channel?
That's a pretty general question, don't you think? It's something that can be asked of any YouTuber, not just Christians. For mine, it's to expose the stupidity that runs rampant in the world and to show how irrational most people are when it comes to considering and evaluating reality. My focus tends to be on religion because I think that's a massive issue, and when it comes to dealing with the real world, I don't think they do very well. But I could and have done other things, which are just as absurd. Does Braxton now get to decide who is Christian enough and who isn't? Who told him that his opinions matter? I'm just trying to get a handle on his intentions here.
Number 3, to what extent do you include considerations about spiritual content, like prayer or guidance?
Personally, I'd say quite a bit. I just point out how stupid the whole thing is. There is no reason at all to think that you're doing anything more than talking to yourself. Now, if you think you have any evidence that there's anything else demonstrably going on, by all means, trot it out. We'd love to see it. Unfortunately, they have nothing of consequence to present, and they're not happy when we point out that prayer works no better under controlled conditions than random chance. Sometimes it's even worse when the individual being prayed for knows that they're being prayed for. Performance anxiety sucks.
Number 4, if someone asks you why they should be a Christian, what do you say?
I give the same answer that I'd give to any question, religious or otherwise. You should be a thing if and only if you have seen sufficient evidence to convince you that the proposition is factually correct. I have not seen that for any religion ever. I've also not seen that kind of evidence to convince me that Bigfoot exists, or that the earth is flat, or that there are aliens coming down to give people anal probes or anything like that. As far as I'm concerned, these are all the same kind of claim, and they all require evidence, and the adherents to these positions, they're trying desperately to get around their evidentiary requirements. Nobody in their right mind should accept any of these things based on the current state of their promoters.
Number 5, what Christian beliefs or commitments do you think are essential for salvation?
I don't think salvation is even a thing. You haven't shown that there's anything that can save us. nor anything that we need to be saved from. I mean, we need to be saved from the religious more often than not, especially if you're an innocent child left in the hands of the clergy, but that's something else entirely, isn't it? This is just another empty claim made by the religious, often because it makes them money and gains them influence and control. You need to be saved. Give me your money and I'll tell you how. Give me your money and listen to me because I know what I'm talking about. Really? Do tell. Because this is how we get back to those 42,000 distinct sects, isn't it? Someone came up with a new con, got a bunch of people to follow them, and over time, a new religion sprang up, or a new variation of an old religion. Lather, rinse, repeat for thousands and thousands of years. And look where that got us.
Number 6, besides making silly videos with lists of questions like this one, what do you wish other Christian YouTubers would do differently?
Oh, this is one I can answer very, very easily. I mean, other than the other Christian YouTubers bit. This isn't just Christians. This is every single theist on the planet. I wish you'd give a damn about the truth. I want you to be able to set aside your feelings and ask yourself, honestly, how do you know any of the things that you think that you know? It doesn't matter what it says in the Bible or any other religious book. How did the people who wrote those things in the first place know any of the things that they claimed? All of the things that you claim to know about your gods, how do you know it? And it's not just how do you claim to know it, how have you put it to the test to see if any of it is actually true? Not why do you believe it, how do you know it? How do you go beyond, well, here's what somebody told me so, to here's how I've objectively tested this to see if it passes any kind of critical muster. How did you find out any of this stuff? And where is your evidence to back any of it up? How have you gone beyond your faith? Because virtually no theist ever does. They don't even try. Just because you really want it to be true, that doesn't mean that it is. The definition of truth is that which is in accordance with fact or reality. So how did you get there? Describe the steps. This is where you have to entirely walk away from faith, and for virtually all theists, that's a terrifying thought. They don't want to do it. And that's why they keep believing this crap instead of trying to find out if it's true. Just because you really wish it was true, that doesn't mean that it is. You have to do a whole lot better. Try.
Number 7, what is the best thing that has happened as a result of your experience as a Christian YouTuber?
Now, I can't answer that as stated, obviously, but I can tell you that the best things that have ever happened to me have been as a result of being a skeptic. I've learned stuff. I've had to go out and do independent research on my own. I've had to read books and scientific journals, etc., etc., etc. I mean, I actually know the Bible better today than I have in years. Now, I used to be able to quote it almost from memory, but 30 years of not being in touch with that has made me forget a bunch. And I'm not quite back to where I used to be. Hell, my brain doesn't work as well as it used to all those years ago. Getting older kind of sucks, but I am so much more in touch with what it says in the Bible now than I have been in a very long time. And that doesn't come from believing, that comes from study. The same goes for the Quran. Now, I'm not nearly as conversant in that as I am with the Bible because I don't debate a lot of Muslims, but I've read it all the way through now. A couple of times, in fact, at least I had a couple of years ago, since I can't put my hands on my copy at the moment, but I've gone into a lot of different religious texts to see what they actually say and what they can actually prove, and that level of education is very, very freeing. You can't just go into this just assuming that what you currently think is true because it makes you happy. If I did that, I'd be every bit as guilty as the religious are.
Well, that's it. That's the 7 questions for Christian YouTubers in 2022. I hope you will answer. And again, if the answers are appropriate, I'll link it in the comments. And I'll see you next time on Trinity Radio.
I still have to question the appropriate answers because, appropriate to who? Now, granted, it is his channel. He can do whatever the hell he wants, but can't any channel say that, religious or otherwise? Here are 7 questions for racist YouTubers, and I get to decide if your answers are appropriate enough. This is why I don't give a crap about your feelings. I care about what's actually going on in reality. Anybody can say, here are the answers that I like based on my own preconceived notions. Most people never go beyond that. It takes an actual intellectual to set aside their own biases and look at where the evidence actually leads. This is why the religious aren't doing very well, because they're terrified to look beyond their religious safe spaces. It's just gotta be true because fifis. They simply can't understand where they're going intellectually wrong. And that goes for Braxton, it goes for pretty much every other religious YouTuber, it goes for pretty much every theist that shows up in the comments on my videos, because these are people who lack the capacity to step back from their beliefs and try to find the reality that actually exists. So long as that's the case, nothing is ever going to get accomplished, because your fifis don't mean anything. It's time to grow the hell up. It's one reason why religion is in a tailspin. They're running out of dumb people to dupe. Maybe instead of throwing softballs for Christians, Braxton should actually address the real problems of his religion. Of course, he won't do that because it isn't emotionally comforting. And that's kind of a sad situation, isn't it?